Hello, I'm R.A. Spratt, and I want to welcome people joining us this week on the Yoto podcast platform. Now, just so you know, most of the bedtime stories I tell here are standalone stories. But over the last year, we have been dipping in and out of the epic story of Odysseus, the hero from ancient Greek mythology. And this week, I'm going to be telling the second last installment of that tale. So if you can jump in right here, that'll be fine. I'm sure you'll pick it all up. But if you did want to go back to the beginning and start from the first episode, you can search back through the episodes. The first episode's called Odysseus, as told by Nanny Piggins, and it dropped on January 8th, 2025. Or you can go back and listen to any of the other episodes. You're going to find fairy tales, myths, legends, and mysteries. I hope you enjoy them all. Now let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Bedtime Stories with me, R.A. Spratt. Well, I'm back. It's been a hectic few weeks. This week I was still doing publicity for the release of Friday Barnes 13. I had a full-on day going around 8 different bookshops in Sydney, and I live an hour and a half from Sydney, so it was a long day of driving from bookshop to bookshop, but it was really good. I got to sign hundreds of books and in all the different hundreds of books around all the different stores. So if anyone in Sydney wants to go and get one, they can go in there or contact the bookshop and get them posted to you. So yeah, that was really good. Although I don't know if I mentioned this, but I broke my toe the Sunday after the Melbourne book launch. I flew back and I was really glad to be home with my family. And I managed to break my toe just walking around the house. I was actually rushing upstairs because I had the wrong glasses on. And I accidentally kicked the leg of a chair and broke my toe. It's the third time I've broken a toe, though, so it's not really very dramatic. It doesn't stop me doing much. But it did mean that as I was traipsing around 8 different bookstores in Sydney, my toe really hurt by the end of the day. But I'm back home now. I've got the second big book launch is this weekend here in Bowral. I believe it's sold out, but if you are coming, I'm looking forward to seeing you. And if you have missed out, please don't stress. I just emailed the Rebel Theatre in Sydney, and have arranged. I've agreed to I'm going to host my next book launch there in October when Romeo v. Juliet comes out, and there'll be Christmas shows, hopefully. A couple of those. And then next year, because my older daughter will be done with the HSC and be off at university, I'll have a bit more time, hopefully. So I'm hoping that when Friday Barnes 14 comes out, I can do a bit of a national tour and get to a few more places anyway. So there will be more live shows coming up, and I will be doing a bit more travel next year when my daughter leaves home. And I've just got Tammy, not that that's her real name, but Tammy from the podcast, she'll be still at home, and I'll be able to get out a little bit more and meet you all with only one teenager to be responsible for. All right, I think that's covered everything. I am having to go to Sweden in a couple of months, which is a little unexpected. I'm only going for a short time, but it did make me think I should learn some Swedish folk tales. So if you are Swedish or you know about Swedish folktales, please feel free to send me an email at rasprat at nannypiggins.com and let me know if you know the names of any good Swedish folktales. I will be looking into it myself, and hopefully we'll have a few Swedish stories either before I go, or hopefully I'll learn a couple when I'm over there and be able to do them for you when I get back. All right, I think that covers everything. It's beautiful here. It's very cold, very, very cold. Yesterday we had quite the frost. So yeah, that's about it. That's the update on Bowral, me and Bowral, and Henry's all curled up. So let's get into today's story. We're back to Odysseus, and let's get into it. Here we go. Odysseus and the day trip to Hades. It was late at night. The Green children should have been in bed hours ago, but there was no way they'd be able to get to sleep for a while because they were too adrenalized. They'd been on a school excursion to the zoo that day, and Nanny Piggins had been there as a chaperone. It had been a lovely day. Nanny Piggins had caught up with a 200-year-old tortoise she'd known from her days at the circus. The tortoise had been the fastest tortoise in the world, but the ringmaster had to let him go, and he got a job at a zoo doing nothing instead, because even the fastest tortoise in the world is not fast enough to astound an audience, not even if you apply jetpacks, which you shouldn't, although the ringmaster did. But Nanny Piggins had become distressed when she saw the conditions at the cheetah enclosure. Now, the cheetah only spoke Swahili, so Nanny Piggins was not able to get his opinion directly, but she could see for herself that he was in full view of the ice cream kiosk, and yet there was no little door so he could let himself out to go and get a scoop, even though it was an unusually hot day. As far as Nanny Piggins was concerned, these were work conditions that could not be tolerated. So she had constructed a door on the cheetah's behalf by using her taekwondo skills to kick out a segment of his fencing. The cheetah had seemed very grateful at first. He'd rushed straight out through his lovely big new hole. Unfortunately, Nanny Piggins had forgotten to allow for the fact that cheetahs are not vegetarians. They have no idea what ice cream tastes like, not even the delicious flavours like Zambaglione, but they do like to eat pork. So he only had eyes for Nanny Piggins. Naturally, a chase had ensued. Now, the Guinness Book of Records shows that the cheetah is the fastest land mammal, reaching speeds up to 120 kilometres an hour. But the Guinness Book of Records has never recorded the speed of Nanny Piggins. And when she's properly motivated, running towards an ice cream van or away from a carnivorous big cat, she can achieve speeds difficult to record on any man-made measuring device. Sure, if they'd been running on a straight track, the cheetah would probably have caught up with her quickly, but Nanny Piggins was excellent at evasive manoeuvres. You can't work for a man as immoral as the ringmaster and not learn a thing or two. So she was devious. She wove around the zoo attractions, hid in obscure spots, got lifts from airborne creatures — she had many friends in the eagle community — and threw projectiles as she evaded the hungry cheetah. Eventually, it was a projectile that ended the chase. She threw a full-sized chocolate mud cake at the cheetah just as it was gasping for breath. The cheetah swallowed the cake whole and instantly realised the error of his ways. He promised to never eat another pig if Nanny Piggins would only give him another slice of cake. Nanny Piggins, being a generous pig, did better than that. She took the cheetah to meet Hans the baker, who came up with a 3-week introduction to cake schedule over which the cheetah would be able to eat every variety of cake from around the world. So the cheetah lived happily ever after. But Nanny Piggins and the children were still jittery with adrenaline after a long day of near-death experiences. So instead of going straight to bed, Nanny Piggins decided the children needed a bedtime story. And since they were halfway through the story of Odysseus, Nanny Piggins decided to continue with that. "So where did we leave off?" asked Nanny Piggins. "Well, the goddess Circe had turned all of Odysseus's men into pigs," said Derek. "But Odysseus said that being as staggeringly beautiful as a pig was too great a burden for her men to bear, so she got Circe to change them back," added Michael. "Then Circe made Odysseus promise to be her bestest best friend forever and have a month-long sleepover at her place," said Samantha. "Ah, yes," said Nanny Piggins, "and so they had a wonderful party. Every night they ate as much cake and drank as much chocolate milkshake as their stomachs could handle, and sometimes just a little bit more to stretch themselves. You never improve unless you push yourself." The children nodded. They were well aware of Nanny Piggins' views on the importance of regularly stretching your stomach to maximise long-term capacity. She'd given them a 3-hour lecture on the subject one time, which was nowhere near as bad as it sounds, because Nanny Piggins' lectures had cake breaks every 15 minutes, so they could practically experience what she was discussing. And sometimes she got so carried away with the cake breaks, she entirely forgot about her lecture. "Anyway," continued Nanny Piggins, "day after day, Odysseus and her men hung out with Circe, eating cake, drinking milkshakes, and lying about in the sun enjoying the island paradise. After 1 month, they had such a nice time, no one was in a rush to go. So 1 month soon became 2, which led to 3, and before they knew it, they'd stayed on the island for an entire year. Eventually, one of the men came to Odysseus and complained," said Nanny Piggins. "Was it Eurylochus?" asked Samantha. "How did you know?" asked Nanny Piggins. "Well, he's a bit of a whinger," said Michael. "To be fair," said Derek, "he's usually whinging about genuinely terrifying near-death experiences that go beyond near and actually involve death for 500 of the 550 men they set out with." "Yes," agreed Nanny Piggins, "but still a bit of a party pooper. Eurylochus reminded Odysseus she had a husband and a son and an entire kingdom to get back to." All right, said Odysseus. I'll go and ask Circe to reveal the secret of getting back to Ithaca. Now, Circe was naturally devastated to be losing her bestiest bestie, but she was also a little bit glad to get rid of the 50 soldiers who'd spent a year living in her garden eating all her cake. Very well, Odysseus, said Circe. I shall tell you how to get home to Ithaca. Excellent, said Odysseus. What do I do? You must first take another journey. Another journey, said Odysseus. I've already been on this journey for a year, and I was at war for 10 years before that. Hold your questions to the end, snapped Circe. I will tell you what you must do. You must put up your mast, raise your sail, then sit down on the deck and allow the north wind to blow your ship across the ocean towards the setting sun, to the wild coast and Persephone's grove where the poplar trees grow. Okay. There you will park your ship, get out, and on foot travel into Hades' kingdom of decay. That doesn't sound very nice, said Odysseus. There at a rocky pinnacle, the river of flaming fire and the river of lamentation meet. Hades needs to do some rebranding, said Odysseus. His home has horrible place names. When you get to this unpleasantly named place, you must do precisely as I say. Okay, I'm going to write this down, said Odysseus. My mind started wandering as soon as he said, put up the sail and sit down on the deck. You must first dig a trench the size of a man's forearm, said Circe. Why? Asked Odysseus. Please don't say I have to chop off a man's forearm. No, just listen, said Circe. All around the trench you must pour offerings of chocolate milkshake. Well, that sounds like a waste of perfectly good milkshake, grumbled Odysseus. Then you must call out to the helpless ghosts of the dead, promising them that when you return to Ithaca, you will sacrifice a whole octo-choc chocolate cake in their honour. By sacrifice, do you mean eat? Asked Odysseus. Of course, said Circe. The dead wouldn't want you to be wasteful. Now, this is the crucial bit. At this point, you must sacrifice a cake to the glorious company of the dead. Sacrifice it straight into my mouth? Asked Odysseus. No, this cake must be set out on a really nice cake plate in front of you. Then you sit down and wait. The spirits of the dead and departed will come to you. That doesn't sound very nice, said Odysseus. You must hold your sword in front of you the whole time, said Circe. Why? Asked Odysseus. To protect myself. No, to protect the cake, said Circe. Don't let them eat it, not until the spirit Tiresias appears. Who? Asked Odysseus. Tiresias, the blind prophet. Never heard of him, said Odysseus. He's the greatest prophet who have ever lived. But he's not living anymore, is he, if he's down in Hades? But his faculties are unimpaired, for though he is dead, Persephone has granted him the power of continuing wisdom, said Circe. Right, said Odysseus. But if he's so wise and he can see the future, how did he end up dead? Couldn't he have prophesied himself out of that one? Don't ask follow-up questions. This is Greek mythology. If it made sense, it would be much more boring. Just do as I say, and Tiresias, the prophet, will tell you how to get home. So I've got to follow all these long and complicated directions, said Odysseus, journey all the way to the brink of the afterlife just to get another set of directions. Yes, said Circe. This sounds unnecessarily complicated, said Odysseus. Your journey is called the Odyssey, not the quick and easy shortcut, Circe reminded him. Very well, said Odysseus. Well, thank you for the lovely year-long sleepover party. I shall tell the men to set sail immediately. Odysseus strode straight out of the house and down to the beach, calling out to her men to ready the ship. Circe, using her goddess powers, loaded the ship up with all the cake they would need for the journey, and so they set sail in less than 2 minutes. Wow, that was quick after lounging around on the island for a whole year, said Derek. Yes, unfortunately, a little too quick, said Nanny Piggins, and Odysseus forgot to count her men. So, as they pushed their ship out into the waves, one man had been left behind. His name was Elpenor. He was the youngest of Odysseus's soldiers, and not the most sensible. In fact, he had a touch of the Bramwell about him. Elpenor had been sleeping on Circe's roof. Why would he sleep on the roof? Asked Samantha. Sunbathing, said Nanny Piggins. Well, that's not sun-safe, said Samantha. They didn't even have sunscreen back then. I know, said Nanny Piggins. As I say, Elpenor wasn't the sharpest cake knife in the picnic hamper. Anyway, Elpenor woke up when he heard the commotion down on the beach. He stood up and he could see the ship bobbing on the waves as the sails were being raised. course, he didn't want to be left behind, so Elpenor swung himself off the roof onto the ladder he'd set against the side of the house. But he missed it and fell to the ground, dying instantly on impact. "Oh, no," said Samantha. "Indeed," said Nanny Piggins, and no one on the ship realised. They sailed off, not even noticing that Elpenor wasn't there. "Oh, that's so sad," said Boris. "Yes," agreed Nanny Piggins, "so let's stop talking about it." Odysseus and her men did exactly as Circe had instructed. They raised the sail, sat on the deck, and let the wind carry them across the ocean all day towards the setting sun, until everything around them became dark. They had reached the furthest point of the ocean, shrouded in mist and fog, where Helos, the sun god, slept, and dreadful night spread over the unhappy people there. "I want to go to the bathroom," said Boris. "It's all right, Boris," Nanny Piggins reassured him. "It will get happier." "Soon?" asked Boris. "Well, soon-ish," said Nanny Piggins, "after it gets a little sadder first." Boris hid his head under a throw rug to try to protect his innocent ears from what he was about to hear. Odysseus beached the ship, and they made their way to the pinnacle where the rivers of lamentation and fiery fire met. Then Odysseus followed Circe's instructions. She dug a trench and poured milkshake on the ground, and straight away the ghosts from the afterlife started flooding out from the miserable depths. You see, there were no milkshakes in Hades. It was just pomegranate cake all day, every day, which grew tiresome after a while. So the spirits started flooding out to see if they could have a sip of delicious milkshake. Odysseus drew her sword and kept all the ghosts at bay. It was very distressing. No one likes to refuse cake to another. But then things got worse, because Odysseus and her men started to recognize some of the ghosts. The soldiers they'd fought with in the Trojan War started to appear. Their friends who'd been eaten by the Cyclops, then their friends who'd been eaten by the giants. Odysseus knew a lot of dead people, and I won't go into details, but they didn't all have nice and supportive things to say to Odysseus about her leadership style. But Odysseus was used to her men complaining when they were alive, so she wasn't too worried about the complaining when they were dead. Until another ghost appeared, who did make her feel bad. It was Odysseus's mother. "Oh, no," said Samantha. "Mom, is that you?" asked Odysseus. Her mother was hard to recognise because she was a ghost and therefore see-through. "Indeed I am, son," said Mum. "I didn't know you were dead," said Odysseus. "Well, you've been gone for 11 years, said her mother. "Stuff happens." "Well, how's everything at home?" asked Odysseus. "Terrible," said the mother. "Your husband is being plagued by dozens of women desperate to marry him. They sit around your house all day, badgering him to propose to one of them." "Oh, no," said Odysseus, "but he's married to me." "Oh, you've been gone for 11 years, said the mother. "I think he's feeling a little bit neglected." Just then another ghost came forward. "Elpenor!" exclaimed Odysseus. "How did you get here before us?" "I'm dead," said Elpenor, "and none of you noticed." "Well, how did you die?" asked Odysseus. "I fell off Circe's roof when my foot missed the first rung of the ladder," said Elpenor. "Typical Elpenor," said Odysseus, rolling her eyes. "Now I'm stuck here in Hades because you didn't give me a proper funeral." "Well, surely Circe'll do that if you're just lying on the ground outside her house." "Oh, she hasn't even noticed me. She's too busy inside eating cake, singing and weaving." "Ugh, typical Circe," sympathised Odysseus. "Never mind. We promise we'll go back to the island and give you a proper funeral." Then finally, the spirit they'd all been waiting for, the prophet Tiresias, came forward, holding a golden sceptre in his hand, so they knew he was important. Even though Tiresias was blind, he knew who it was before him. "Odysseus of the nimble wits, why do you forsake sunlight and visit this miserable place of the dead?" "Well, I was hoping you could give me directions so I can get home to Ithaca." "Don't you have sat-nav?" asked Tiresias. "No, it hasn't been invented yet." "Oh, I can see it in the future." "Well, yeah, that's because you're a prophet, aren't you?" "What about a map?" asked Tiresias. "Have you seen ancient Greek maps? Everything's the wrong size and shape. They think the world comes to an end when you get to the edge of the page. You can't use an ancient Greek map to navigate." "Fine, I'll tell you how to get home, but only if you agree to give me a slice of cake." So Odysseus used his sword to cut a slice of cake and handed it to the prophet. Tiresias greedily gobbled it up. Said Tiresias. Being trapped for all eternity in Hades is bad enough, but the worst part is definitely that there is no good bakery down here. You were going to tell us how to get home? Prompted Odysseus. Oh, yes, right, said Tiresias. And Odysseus got out a pen ready to jot down the details. You will set sail and endure terrible suffering. You will be tempted, but you must be strong and not give in. You will see delicious-looking cakes on the cliff tops, but you must not eat them, or you will be doomed! Doomed, I say! Right, got it. Doomed, said Odysseus, jotting this all down and underlining the word doomed. Also, Poseidon will be very, very angry and try to kill you. Yeah, of course, said Odysseus. She was used to that. You will suffer a lot. How much of a lot? Asked Odysseus. How much have you suffered so far? Asked Tiresias. An unimaginable amount, said Odysseus. Then 10 times that, declared Tiresias. And if you do crack and give in to temptation, all your men will be destroyed. Resist temptation. Okay, got it, said Odysseus. Then, if all the gods who want to kill you don't kill you, you will get home to vanquish all the women trying to marry your husband, and then live to die of old age. Right, said Odysseus, reading back over Tiresias' directions. You know, these aren't very clear directions, are they? I could have done with a bit more details, where to turn left and right, how long to sail in which direction. Basically, some more direction bits in the directions would be helpful. But when Odysseus looked up, Tiresias had gone and taken the rest of the cake with him. Hey, you didn't share, said Odysseus. That's just rude. Oh, well, I guess we'll have to just do our best to follow these instructions, said Eurylochus, reading over Odysseus' shoulder. Yeah, after we go back and give Elpenor a proper funeral, said Odysseus. What? Said Eurylochus. You can't be serious. We sailed all the way to Hades just to sail all the way back again? To bury a nincompoop? I promised the nincompoop, said Odysseus. You just want to go back and eat more of Circe's cake before we set out again, don't you? Accused Eurylochus. Well, it'd be rude not to have catering at a funeral, said Odysseus. Prepare the ship. We set sail for cake. You mean set sail for Circe's island, said Eurylochus. Yes, the island, said Odysseus. And it's as well they went back to take care of Elpenor's funeral and eat even more of Circe's cake, because they had no idea what terrible challenges lay ahead. The end. Time for bed. Terrible challenges? But it can't be worse than going to Hades, can it? Said Michael. Of course it can. It's Greek mythology. There's always room for things to get more terrible. But that's a story for another day. All this talking has made me hungry. Don't you mean tired? Asked Samantha, checking her watch. It was really, really late. No, I'm too hungry to be tired now. There's no way I'll get to sleep until I've eaten at least a dozen cupcakes. Come along. If you want to get a good night's sleep, you better come with me. And so they did. The end. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. I hope you liked that one. That's it for now. Until next time, goodbye. Hello, it's me again. If you enjoyed listening to Bedtime Stories with R.A. Spratt, it would be really helpful if you could like, subscribe, follow, and or review the show on whatever podcast platform you're listening to now. Every little one of those digital affirmations helps, and the bigger this podcast gets, the more I can justify procrastinating from my real job to keep bringing these stories to you. Thank you.